I probably need to get started so that we can finish relatively on time. I want to ask you to join me first in thanking Mrs. Blair McAvoy and Miss Kathy Lucas for hosting this and sharing it from the Mothers Club, so join me in giving them a round of applause. They're back on my right. Thank you very much, and obviously thank you to Ashley Edwards, who's been a great president of the Mothers Club this year. I appreciate all you do. Let's give Ashley a round of applause as well. And one other thing they've done is, as you exit, there's a gift for every senior, and that gift includes a mug with all your names on it, a frame to put something like today's photo in it, and just to echo its significance, my wife still keeps that frame and photo from our son's graduation right nearby in our bedroom, and it's fun to see that and be reminded of an event like this. And then lastly, we give you back a copy of the letter you wrote when you first entered MBA to kind of sense and see how things were and how they are now. So look forward to that. A couple of other issues that I want to highlight. Behind me is a big thank you card that we'd love for as many of you to sign as possible. We know not everyone got to go to the movie last Friday, but if you have the chance to come up and sign that card, to thank Mr. John Rochford, because he's been really nice to host a film every year. And then finally, in terms of these introductory comments, I'm repeating some information I told the seniors so that all of you will know this information as well about graduation. First, Michael Jones Photography does the photos for commencement. And so when the seniors stop to get their diploma, we snap a picture of everyone, and those photos will be available, and it's on our website if you want to get a copy of that photo. Secondly, on the website is information about the videos for Honors Night and Commencement. And then lastly, for people that are living afar or can't come to commencement but want to watch it, it will be streamed, and that information is also on the website. Now, a couple of you asked me about that already, so I thought I should highlight that issue. And then lastly, the school has not gone to a ticket procedure for commencement because we've seemed to have enough seats. And that bureaucracy is something that we'd really rather not do, but we know people want to have as good a seats as possible, so we let people come at 4:30 on Thursday to reserve seats, and it's on a first-come, first-served basis. So you know that detail. And I guess I should say, before I turn it over to a few students to make some comments, that I woke up this morning and I told the senior class this, that I really want this to be a great week for them and for your families. This week ought to be about celebrating this class, and it's nice that we're in the dining hall today, because I saw a number of you already notice in the center of the room on my right on the glass panel are the names for the class of 2019. And I thought about these panels. I looked around at a lot of schools when we were building this building, and I was thinking about something that might be meaningful to do and easy to do, and so I thought, well, yes, let's put all the names of the graduates. So you look to my left there, the class of 1868. It's interesting to look at it historically, because there are very few people at certain years, particularly when the country was in some crisis financially. So there are some classes going down to the 1920s over there around the Depression where, there are very few students at MBA. But on Saturday, I guess, earlier than that, last week, MBA's oldest graduate died, Mr. James O. Bass, class of 1928. He was 108 years old and would have turned 109 this July. I knew Mr. Bass pretty well. In fact, in 2012, there is a photograph of him and me standing in front of his name over there on my left. And I mention that in the context of this is a fun place to come back to and see your names. It also is probably really smart because it says the dining hall is about everybody, not about one person. And so that's been, I think, a nice part of the tradition of the names in here. So getting back to my statement, I want this to be a really fun week for this class and for your families. And I emphasize that at the rehearsal today. And I'll have that same spirit, I hope, with all of you this week. And I hope this will be a really great way for you to remember your time and friendships together here, all of you. The school values your being here and thanks you for entrusting the school to have your sons here. And I told the class just at the end of the rehearsal that I've really enjoyed their class. So with that, I'd like to ask a few students to make some comments, and we'll have some music, and that's basically the program today. These are students who wanted to talk about their moms, and the first one was scheduled to at the mother-son breakfast, but debate tournaments changed that plan, so join me in welcoming Julian Haberman as he comes up.
As Mr. Joy said, I'm so grateful to be able to talk today, especially because I had to miss the mother-son breakfast due to debate tournament. I also had to miss a lot of school days, many school breaks, 7 weeks of my summer, and too many other family events to count. Still, my mom has been there no matter what. Her warm, loving presence has been an inevitability, whether I'm present or not. It would be impossible to cram into the speech every example of her resilience and care. But here's a couple of examples. When I missed the mother-son breakfast, she went into detail about every single person who spoke, her favorite parts about it, and how much she loved it even though I wasn't there. When I missed so many days for debate tournaments and I was exhausted coming back, something that she would do would be to literally sit cross-legged on my floor, list out every assignment I had to do, and sit there until I finished. And at the time, I thought it was horrible that I had to do all this work until about 3 a.m. I mean, I'd rather be sleeping and cramming it in. But now, looking back on it, it's impossible to imagine those type of sacrifices that she made for me. Staying up to the wee hours of the morning, making sure that I succeeded for my success and my achievement. This overall theme of sacrifice is something that I realized that has been everywhere in my life. She spent so much of my time, or her time, for me and my success. In fact, that this feeling that she has sacrificed far more for me than I know, than I've appreciated and paid back for, is probably something that essentially defines parenthood and something I won't understand for a long time. Just yesterday, I heard a story from her perspective that entirely changed the way I viewed my life. When I was in India for MBA, I ate a food that unwittingly had cashews in it, to which something I'm highly allergic. Even though I should have taken an EpiPen, I did not. I just took an Allegra and decided to wait it out, which is a pretty bad idea. Of course, I contacted my physician mom, both for medical advice and emotional care, and so I texted her that I'll be fine and I'll wait it out. Little did I know that due to the time difference, it was just when she was waking up and that she had to spend the rest of her day thinking that I had to deal with the reaction. Something with these types of nut allergies is that you can have a delayed reaction to it, meaning that when I texted her that I went to go to sleep, she thought for the next 8 hours that I could have died there. And when she told the story, it was entirely different than the way I did. When I tell it, it's just a joking story about how the name of the food was Barfi, B-A-R-F-I, and how funny it was that I had to throw that up. When my mom tells the story yesterday, she tells the exact same joke, but then also mentions about how she had to deal with that she thought that I was going to have to die for 8 hours. That type of difference in perspective shows a lot about parenthood, and something that's hard to understand as a child. By cannot understand, I don't mean the way that I don't understand how annoying my brother is, or understand something like that. I mean that there's something in a perspective of a mother that's very hard for me as a child to appreciate. And that's something that I want to talk about today, is that even though I can't understand the innumerable effects that she's had on my life, I can understand the ways that her actions have impacted my view on the world. Here are a couple of values that I've learned from her. The first is hard work. My mom is the child of 2 immigrants. She graduated medical school at 23 years old and is the hardest working person I know, the epitome of efficiency. Resilience. There's something you may not know about my mom, and this type of covertness is a testament to her strength. As long as I can remember, my mom has had lupus, which is an incurable disorder where one's own immune system attacks itself. This causes things like inflammation, arthritis, organ problems, and sun sensitivity, and overall exhaustion. But a lot of people don't know about this. And the reason for that is that she has always made it a testament to her character that this illness won't define her. When I was a little kid, I had the wrong view about this. Since my brother, he always gave me a little game to play, probably just to distract me because I was annoying, is that whenever the hours on the clocks would line up, something like 111, 222, 333, I'd be able to have a wish that I wouldn't tell anybody. Well, I'm going to spoil the wish right now, even though it may take away its magical effects, was that for about 12 years, I said every day, I wish my mom's lupus would go away. Now I realize that was the wrong way to view it. Instead of wishing it to go away, I realized that every day my mom had made a testament to live life as a reality, but still push back against it. Despite this, it's never defined her character. She was the co-chair, even when she physically could not work anymore due to these problems. She was still the co-chair of the book sale and also the spaghetti supper this year, has continued to be an incredibly active in this community and an incredible person. This is the final thing I've learned from my mom, just from watching her, is the type of love that she has for the world. Through all of this, she's always had a smile on her face, has always been incredibly loving, and has been a positive influence for everybody that she knows. More than anything, she's shown me that there's resilience in the hardest of times, and to always have a smile on your face and deal with it, and to push on despite that. Because of this, I really wanted to speak today just to tell her that while I may not always understand some things about being a motherhood, and that as a debater, there's some arguments that we may get in that are a little bit petty, that still, I always love you no matter what. And unconditionally, I know how much you've put in sacrifice for me. I love you so much.
Thank you, Julie. Bela?
Good afternoon, mothers, sons. I was not asked to speak today. In fact, I had to ask to speak here. Since freshman year, I'd always known that I would need to take the opportunity to talk about my mother. I originally imagined I would be speaking at the mother-son breakfast because I did not know about the luncheon until breakfast this year. I was devastated when the day came around for the breakfast and I had not been asked to speak. I thought that everybody should know that my mom is the best, and therefore I should have the opportunity to tell everybody about her. However, however, my mother, though she is a very extroverted person, if you get the chance to meet her, follows a very introverted tendency. She's the type of woman to throw a party with all of her friends at our house, wait for everybody to arrive, to tell me, I'm going to my room, I'm going to hide. So I put no one at fault for not realizing that. In fact, my mother is the best and deserves this recognition. When I realized that my opportunity to recognize her had passed, I was devastated. That is until Mr. Joy mentioned that day that there was this opportunity at the mother-son luncheon. I saw my chance and I took it. And I asked Mr. Joy to be here today so I could brag about my mama. So here comes the bragging. There's so many reasons that my mother is the greatest. For one, when I was born, my mother had just turned 23, and my father was 21. My parents were not married and had no plans to, but my mother was determined to give me and my brother, yes, twins, the best lives possible, and she's done just that. My mother is one of the strongest people I know. I'm sorry, I meant the strongest person. And she has always been. When my brother and I were only 4 years old, my mother made the decision to move our entire family across the country to Boulder, Colorado to go to graduate school. What a power move. I mean, with 2 4-year-olds and only her determination to create the best life for our family, and she was able to do just that. In fact, I often reflect on that time in Colorado as the best time of my life. Maybe it was my age and my newfound curiosity for the world. Either way, my mother made the time we had there so perfect that I don't even remember the times she would go to school. And for all I knew, she just stayed at home all day and played while we had to go to school. On the contrary, 4 years later, she had received her master's degree and we returned to Nashville. This is only one story of thousands that demonstrate my mother's toughness and fortitude. For all of the incredible strength, however, my mother is also the sweetest and quirkiest side to her as well. And now is where I tell you about the frogs. At our house, we have a small water feature in our backyard surrounded by my mother's immaculate garden. In this garden is where my mother spends the majority of her free time, so it is no surprise that in her time back there, she has made some friends. We have a nest of bluebirds, a few snakes, but most importantly, we have frogs. We have 3 frogs. We have little frog, medium frog, and big or biggie frog. The elusive but massive frog with whom my mom has been suiting for months. Yes, I've heard her say it before, and I believe that if she were able to, she would marry that frog. My mother's connection to nature and to all the beautiful parts of life has inspired me to try and be the same way. If it weren't for my mom, I do not think that I would have ever taken art history or French, 2 of my favorite classes. My mom is unbeatable. To all the other moms out there, I'm not saying that you two are not the best mom, but to me, no one else in the world can compare to my mom. Mom, I love you more than anything else, and I'll be sorry to leave you next year in college. I'll call, I promise.
Thank you, Bela. James Monner?
As I look out at the crowd today, I see all of my classmates and their mothers. Mothers they probably see every day. Mothers they get to hug every day. Mothers that they get to talk to every day and eat dinner with every day. Now, to most of you, this may seem like a daily routine, but for me, it has become a luxury. I came to this school in the summer of 2017. There were a lot of challenges and concerns I had about coming to this place. There were the basics, like whether or not I would make friends. There were other things like how would I fare at all-boys school when most of my friends in my old school were girls. But by far the most important and daunting challenge was dealing with the separation from my mother. When I lived in Mississippi, I didn't see her every day. My parents had joint custody of me after the divorce. But my father traveled a lot for work, so I ended up spending the majority of my early years with my mother. Now, there have been some things that annoy me about my mother, such as her unending desire to take 1,000,000 pictures of every event, the necessity to tell her we have to be at a place 30 minutes earlier than we actually do just so we're only 5 minutes late, and her determination to play 20 questions whenever I tell her anything about my life, no matter how small. These things are minuscule when compared to the things that I love about my mother, such as her supportiveness, her ability to smile through anything, and her resilience. Her supportiveness was best shown when she supported my decision in middle school to play football, despite my rather thin stature. Her ability to smile through anything is clear when I observe how she has handled her 2 divorces. During one of my visits, when we were talking about this situation that would drive most people into a depressed funk, she sat there with a smile on her face and said, "I guess marriage just isn't for me," then proceeded to laugh. Her resilience is something I didn't really understand until I grew older. When I was a child, I just saw my mother as this angel who was smart and kind and treated me well. But as I grew older and we talked about things, I saw just how resilient she is. In addition to her 2 divorces, she endured strong parental pressure to not move far from home, resulting in her college being closer to her home than her high school. the inability to have privacy in public because of her father's notoriety, and a toxic workplace environment and her most recent job. And through all of that, she still wakes up with a smile on her face every day and manages to have the energy to put one on those around her as well. So you can imagine the difficulty I faced when I left my mother to come here. Of course, we could call and FaceTime, but that's just not the same as being in her presence. I couldn't come home and tell her about my day over dinner, or talk about the tests I took on the drive home. I couldn't sit down and enjoy a movie or TV show with her every night. This year was the first where I was not with my mother on Mother's Day, something that was very hard for both of us. And through all that, we remained as close as ever. That is because of one thing. I've heard it said that the most important thing is to spend as much time with your parents as you can. And while I agree that spending a lot of time with your parents is important, I've found that it is inaccurate to say that it is the most important thing. What I have found to be the most important thing is making sure that however much time I do spend with my parents, that time is of maximum quality. I see my mom once a month if we're lucky, but during that long weekend that we have from school, my mother and I will go out to eat. We'll go watch a movie. We'll visit my grandparents. We'll start a TV show together, and from time to time, we'll get froyo. The more quality time that you have with your parents, I've found, the less quantity of time seems to matter. Now, it is at this time that I would like to address one of my failures as a son. Mom, I know you're way back there, but I haven't called or FaceTimed you nearly enough these past few years. And I know that you think that doesn't really bode well for college. But I, right now, in front of everyone and their mothers, promise to call you once a week. And here's the big one. I promise to FaceTime you once a month. Now, I may regret these words later, but honestly, anything is worth making my mother happy, which is why I'm speaking here today. And another purpose of this speech is to inform all of you, my classmates, and the faculty members that are here today who have never met my mother, the great importance she has in my life, and the wonderful person that she is. And though I will always have parts of me that annoy her because they are traits that I got from my father, I will always be the person that I am, in large part due to her. And she is responsible for the man that I am and the man that I will become. Well, the good parts at least. Mother, I love you. You are the perfect mother. I could not ask for a better mother. You are the brightest light in my life, the best jewel in my life, and I cannot stress this enough. I love you.
So as the singers are coming down here on my right and some in the center, just to give you a glimpse of the rest of the program so you know you're not trapped here all day. We just have two more seniors that will make some comments, and then some other great music and some recognition that won't take too long. But I want to interject what a privilege it is to have guys like the three of them come to ask me if they can make some talks about their moms. I frequently will say that this is really an important part of the education, to hear older students, particularly in front of the younger students, talk so openly and with such vulnerability. And it's also a really good experience. You never know when you're going to be asked to speak publicly. A lot of you know I get to talk all the time publicly, but it doesn't come easily. It is something that you have to work at, something you have to kind of push yourself to do, and it's a really important skill. And you're going to be asked. Last month I was asked to speak at a funeral of a good friend that I thought was going to live longer than I. And you just never know about those opportunities. So think about that as you listen to these great talks. I appreciate what they said. So Mr. Smith, please come up. Join me in welcoming these singers as they perform for us.
We're doing like two rows. Two rows. Tenor one from the back. Tenor one in from the front. Bass, jazz drum.
Mr. Smith was excited this weekend about a communication he received from a group that asked, and the premier group, he told me, that asked choruses to perform at a festival in the fall, next February. And he said he had to submit 4 years of music, and that it was such an exciting notification because we were chosen out of all the schools in Tennessee to be the ones that are represented this year. So congratulations. Garrett knows he's up next, so Garrett Murphy.
Good morning. As I look back on my time at MBA, as my journey here comes to a close, I realize more and more how essential my mom has been in forming me in the person I am today. When my mom told me 11 years ago I would be moving from Brentwood to Nashville and be transferring from my public school to a private school, I broke down and cried. I wanted nothing to do with Nashville and wanted to stay in my comfortable living situation where I had all my friends. Now, looking back on that seemingly tragic day, 11 years down the road, I come to the conclusion that my mother is truly always right. Now, my mom's not always right because whatever she says goes. Rather, she's always right because she always puts the needs of others in front of her own. I can confidently say, throughout my whole MBA career, my mother has done exactly that. My mother has sacrificed so much of her time to make my life easier. She participates in every aspect of my life and supports me in everything, whether that be coming to all my choir concerts, even on late nights, or attending sporting events, home or away. My mom's the type of person that when I told her I was making a 30-second announcement about an upcoming lacrosse game at Assembly, she asked if she could come to it. The difference with you, Mom, is that to all the time you spend on me, to you, it's not a sacrifice. Rather, you genuinely would give up all of your free time in order to spend it with me. You make me the center of your life not because you have to, but because you want to. Now, when I say that my mom spends a remarkable amount of time on me, I mean it. Yet my mom still finds time to push herself to experience all that life has to offer. My mom graduated salutatorian in high school, finished at the top of her class at Boston College, earned a fellowship for her master's at American University, lived in Italy, sang on a cruise ship, worked as an aerobic instructor, and even ran multiple marathons. And while I started my MBA career, while she raised 3 kids, my mom returned to Vanderbilt to become a nurse practitioner. And when I wanted to complain about how hard MBA's work was, I was quickly silenced when I walked into my mom's room to see massive textbooks with sticky notes all over the room and poster boards hanging on the walls with diagrams labeled crazy words such as, what happens to the musculoskeletal system when a dorsiflexion occurs? Yet every time I walked in that room, I knew my mom would put all of it aside just to spend time with me. A few weeks ago, I was driving home from a lacrosse practice when my phone starts buzzing, saying that I have a call from my Nana, who lives in North Carolina. And I don't talk to my Nana often, and nor was expecting a call on a Wednesday night around dinner time, so I answered it. And I answered it to a panicked voice, asking if my mother was okay. Having not seen my mother since the morning, I asked her what was going on, and my Nana explained to me that while my mom was at the mall trying on a dress in the dressing room, that she threw her back out. And when my mom threw her back out, however, she was in so much pain that she couldn't carry her own purse to her car, yet had to leave it in the Nordstrom dressing room. She had to slowly hobble for an hour to make it outside, where she had to call my aunt to pick her up. My mom couldn't even bear the pain to drive her car home. Now myself, driving home and knowing very little of the story, yet the severity of her back pain, I anxiously rushed home. Yet when I walked inside her room and saw her laying down in extreme pain, she turned to me with a smile on her face and said, "How was your day?" Mom, I don't know what I'd do without you. You prioritize me and all my problems over everything, not because you have to, but because you want to. You inspire me every day to live a life where I push myself to be uncomfortable, because that is where I can learn new sides of life. And as I travel to California to attend college next year, I'll miss my friends, I'll miss MBA, and I'll miss Nashville, but I'll especially miss you. I love you, Mom.
Thank you, Garrett. Caleb?
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. There we go. Thank you. I'm a big fan of crowd-to-speaker interaction. It makes sure that I know what I'm talking about and that you all don't fall asleep. Now, if you'll forgive me, I'm a little bit under the weather today, but that's never stopped my mom, so I don't think I should allow it to stop me either. My mom, who's sitting over there, Leah Crowder Tolbert, is one of the most amazing people you'll ever meet and the most amazing person that I've ever met in my life. We have a very interesting story, my mom and I. First of all, you know, if you're looking for a true best friend in my life, it's most definitely my mom. Mainly because we make fun of people together the most. We really bonded over that, and high school has been terrific for us. I went in elementary school. I went to Jones Paideia Magnet. I was there from kindergarten through third grade when my mom pulled me out of school to homeschool me. My mom then proceeded to homeschool me from 5th to 8th grade, and then kind of sent me off to MBA my 9th grade year. And those homeschool years were, I think to date, some of my favorite years of my life, especially that 8th grade year. For those of you who don't know, before I came to MBA, I was living in China. We were in a place called Xi'an, China, doing mission work that was really all because of my mom. See, my mom is always sort of been not only the backbone, but really the driver in our family. She's the one that motivates us to do stuff. So when the opportunity came to do a year of ministry in China, and you know, my dad was unsure, I was unsure, and my sister didn't know what to think about it, my mom was 100% sure that this was God's plan for us. And lo and behold, she got us there and got us through that year, and then got me here. But I don't want to make that road sound too easy, because it really wasn't. In fact, this could have looked a lot different. I could have been giving this speech at Hume Fogg or MLK or somewhere else, because I almost missed the test date for MBA. We were in Beijing at the time, and my mom had to rush me onto a train with my dad and then call us as we made our way down the streets, not understanding the language, to a testing center in central Beijing to take the test to come to MBA. And I'm very grateful to her for that. I think what a lot of us take for granted is the amount of support that our mothers give us. And a lot of us take for granted what it costs them. You know, I've always been a night owl, and it hurts me to say that I can't exactly tell you what my mom is, because she's up at every hour of the evening and every early hour of the morning with me no matter what. So I don't think she really has a true preference. But especially theme nights, when I'm up till 3 and 4 in the morning because I refuse to write anything the night before, my mom's always up there with me. I learned very quickly how light of a sleeper she is, because, with one pin drop or one slamming of the table, she's up and in the room wondering what had happened. And while I seemed annoyed at first, I'm always very thankful for that. My mom and I are in a serious transitional phase right now with college coming up, and I'll be going back out of the country again to China. Now, I know there's a part of my mom that's sad about that because I'll be going away, but then there's another part of her that's very excited that she gets the excuse to go back to China again and be with all of her friends. But Mom, I just want you to know how much I appreciate you and how much I appreciate everything you've done for our family. Mom, you make everything look so easy, even though, I know that it is not for you and not for anybody. My mom has been through several trials and tribulations, as anyone has, but they never seem to stop her or slow her down. My mom has been through everything from neck surgeries that could have crippled her and kept her in the bed for a long period of time, to simple loss of a family member that had her down and saddened for a period of time. But through it all, she always finds a way to comfort me and comfort the rest of our family and really be there for us. Mom, if this summer is going to be interesting for us because it's the last one we have before things just get crazy, as I think about it. We checked the other day. My mom and I, as I said, we love to make fun of people, and we were just making fun of my school. My new college the other day, they sent us an email detailing some of the things we'll be doing this summer, and then all of a sudden 5 minutes later we got the exact same email, no words changed, no anything. A third email came about 2 minutes later that said they were requesting to recall the information. So we're already a little bit wary about how, things are going to work structurally at that school. But Mom, I certainly look forward to 4 more years of making fun of undergrad with you and, making fun of many people in this room as well as we have done over the years. I just want to say if anyone has had a part in where I am today and the accomplishments that I've had, it's my mom, and I'm forever thankful to her for that. Mom, I owe you the world, and I'm going to do my best to give it to you in these next few years. Thank you.
Thank you, Caleb. Each year, the seniors recognize 2 faculty members at this luncheon, and I'd like both of them to come down now so I can give them a gift on behalf of the senior class and the Mothers Club. So would Miss Angela Klausner and Mr. Will Norton please come forward? Join me in recognizing both of them. So 11 years ago, both of them came to MBA, although Mr. Norton came a little bit before that time in 1995 when he entered his freshman year here. Ms. Klausner came to MBA from Battleground Academy, but I got to know her fairly well because of Mr. Klausner, and so I knew that she would be a great member of the community here, and she's obviously proved that by being focused on how to make the library a better place for the entire community. And I'm glad to say she'll be around some next year working on our archives because we've been trying to develop those over the years. So with many thanks and with much appreciation, Angela Klausner, we say thank you to you. And many of you know that Mr. Norton, but probably not all of you know that I phoned him when he was deployed because I'd seen his mother in a supermarket and we're talking a little bit about him and his journey in the Army, and she mentioned to me that he had an interest in teaching, and so I capitalized on that moment and called him and was really pleased to have him come back to MBA 11 years ago. And he's done a lot for MBA, obviously, by developing programs that a number of you have enjoyed, our outdoor programs, our Dominican trip, and many, many more. He's also had a wonderful experience going out to California to the JH Ranch, where his next step in life will be, and I know he's really happy that he and his family will have that adventure. He was in Birmingham this weekend, and I was trying to tease him by saying you might take your boys to the Vandy game over in Birmingham, because I knew they were trying to get the house set up and thought that'd be a good distraction for them and the family. But we'll miss him, but I know he'll always be a part of MBA, and I appreciate your recognizing him as well. Join me again. Thank you. So while Dr. Neergaard tunes up the last part of the program, my friends in the alumni office are going to come around now and give all the seniors a remembrance from today. So while they're doing that, join me in welcoming back to MBA someone the seniors have heard every year, Dr. John Neergaard.
I'm going to do 3 things for you today. The second one is Hey Diddle Ding Dong Song, Hey Diddle Diddle Ding Dong Song by the White Will Smith. The third one is a setting of a poem by A.A. Milne called Spring Morn. First one one of mine that I wrote when I was having a lot of trouble coming up with words. She loves to talk, she loves to talk, she loves to talk, she loves to talk, and I love to listen. Sometimes she runs down, she runs down, she runs down, she runs down, and I'll slip in a word like priming a pump, winding a watch, charging a battery, nudging your jello, she's fully restored. For she loves to talk, she loves to talk, she loves to talk, she loves to talk, and I love to listen. I worry that I am not holding up my end of the conversation. When she looks at me, she looks at me, she looks at me, she looks at me, and says, "What do you think?" Squirrels in the attic, I don't know what to do. Do you think it's a problem? Like priming a pump, winding a watch, charging a battery, nudging your jello, she's fully restored. For she loves to talk, she loves to talk, she loves to talk, she loves to talk, and I love to listen. Yeah, she loves to talk, she loves to talk, she loves to talk, she loves to talk, and I love to listen, I love to listen, I love to listen. Thank you. If dirt were gold and I could buy your heart, then I'd dig up all of Mexico. In fact, I'd do most anything if I could only be your beau. Hey, diddle diddle, the cat, the fiddle, and the moonlight in your eyes drives me wild. Maybe someday you'll be a jet set smash and I'll be a beggar in the street. Would you pass me by in your dress so fine, or would you donate a donut for me to eat? Mary, Mary, quite contrary, won't you let me be your loving man? Maybe it's just a crazy dream I'm having. It makes me feel like somersaulting in the sun. When you smile, I get the shivers. Cross my heart, you're the only one. If I had a hammer and a bunch of nails, and I'd build us a house up in a tree. And I'd be Tarzan and you'd be Jane, but don't you go and cheat on me. Lions and tigers and grizzly bears couldn't keep me from being there with you. Oh, how happy it would be if you were a chicken and I were a duck. Every morning at the break of day, well, I could quack and you could cluck. Little boy blue, come blow his horn. Well, I'd rather be behind the barn kissing you. Maybe it's just a crazy dream I'm having that makes me feel like somersaulting in the sun. When you smile, I get the shivers. cross my heart, you're the only one. If dirt were gold and I could buy your heart, then I'd dig up all of Mexico. In fact, I'd do most anything if I could only be your beau. Ding dong, the witch is dead, so let the word be spread that I love you. I appreciate the invitation to come back. I want to add my best wishes to you. Where am I going? I don't know. Down to the stream where the king cups grow, up on the hills where the pine trees blow. Anywhere, I don't know. Where am I going? The clouds sail by, little ones, baby ones over the sky. Where am I going? The shadows pass, little ones, baby ones over the grass. If you were a cloud and sailed up there, you'd sail on water as blue as air, and you'd see me here in the fields and say, doesn't the sky look green today? Where am I going? The high rooks call, it's awfully fun to be born at all. Where am I going? The ringdoves coo, we do have beautiful things to do. If you were a bird and lived on high, you'd lean on the wind when the wind came by, and you'd say to the wind when it took you away, that's where I wanted to go today. Where am I going? I don't quite know. What does it matter where people go? Down to the woods where the bluebells grow. Anywhere, I don't know. Anywhere, I don't know. Thank you.
Dr. Niergaard, this is a small thanks from the school and the Mothers Club. We appreciate your being back very much. A few very brief announcements. If you have not signed that card, I appreciate your coming up and doing so right afterwards. Secondly, as you depart, don't forget the gifts from the Mothers Club. And then lastly, let's really enjoy this week together. As you heard, time goes really fast. And so savor the time this week and let's make it a great graduation for the class of 2019. Thank you all.